Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another episode of Overbooked, the series where I talk about every single book on my shelf because I'm a completionist at heart. Today we are talking about this rather stunning addition to my shelf. It's Sarah Gailey's Magic for Liars. Please stay up. Maybe be facing the camera a bit more. There we go. Some quick disclaimers before we start. I was sent a copy of this book for free by the publisher. Regardless, nobody's paying me to talk about books. All opinions are my own. I'm also going to keep this spoiler free because I think spoiling a murder mystery book is probably one of the worst sins possible. I'm not going to get into it here, but I would reference a content warning for the book as a whole of abortion. There is, I've written them down, abortion, terminal illnesses, as well as a heavy dose of teenagers are just a bit awful. Magic for Liars is a California noir urban fantasy murder mystery. When I say that this book fits into a lot of different genre categories, I'm really not exaggerating. And it originally came out in 2019. I think I would have been on BookTube when I was reading this. Quite possibly, so you can probably scour back through the videos and find the wrap-up where I originally talked about this. Sarah Gailey is a non-binary author. They use they/them pronouns, and they've written a whole bunch of stuff, a lot of which I do have on my shelf, and a lot of which I've read since originally reading this book. So, Magic for Liars, they've written... What else is on my shelf? Upright Women Wanted was one of my favourite books of 2020. I have American Hippo on my TBR at the moment, which I might have read by the time you're watching this. Just lots and lots of good stuff. I think in 2021... I'm hoping it's still 2021 by the time you're watching this, they released The Echo Wife, which I haven't read yet, but I am hoping to read. Private Detective Ivy never had magic, unlike her sister Tabitha, who left home to go to a magical school, leaving Ivy at home with her terminally ill mother and her now grieving father. Now they're both adults, they've made lives for themselves, but Ivy is brought into Tabitha's school where she now teaches in order to investigate the death of one of the teachers who has been found murdered in quite a grotesque way in the library. In order to solve the mystery, Ivy needs to deal with teenagers' proclivity to keep secrets, adults' secret keeping, and also the fact that she suddenly has access to this world that she never expected to be a part of, and it's bringing out a lot of old feelings, shall we say. I am a murder mystery lover. I'm a fanatic, though I will say that the majority of the murder mystery stuff I have consumed has been through television. Primarily, I love the really old Poirot series. Anything Agatha Christie that has been made into television, I've probably seen it. I also did quite a long stint of watching things like Jonathan Creek, Bones I've got into recently, like anything where it's a contained thing. That's what I like. I like to know who's done the killing by the end of episode 1. I just have oodles of love for I must pick apart all of the different intricacies of this place and reveal everyone's secrets in order to find out the one bit of truth that I actually need. If you also love those things, then let me give this book a big thumbs up for you. I really think the mystery aspect of this book is done well, and it's not an easy thing to pull off. I think that the different twists and turns, the reveals, the puzzle pieces slotting into place moments are handled perfectly well. The pacing is just right for that. It is much more of a people reveal clues about themselves rather than a we found this forensic evidence at the crime scene kind of story, which makes sense. There's a magical element to it. We're not going to get into the sciencey side. But if we're dealing with people reveal clues, Sarah Gailey writes the teenage characters so well that I am so glad that it went down this people-focused route. Yeah, I just think that they managed to capture teenagers beautifully. And, you know, I haven't been a teenager for 7 years now, but I think it's safe to say that they're kind of awful. And I don't mean that in like a, ugh, the youth, but I mean like in some way we were all awful when we were teenagers. Do we not think? And if you think you were wonderful as a teenager, I'm sorry. From the bitchiness to the graffiti to the way that they interact with adults, I just was transported back to being in school. It wasn't a super traumatic transportation back, but yeah, there's a lot of truth to this story. And given that I went to Catholic school in the UK and this is a magical high school in California, I think it's a pretty nice, universal, relatable experience. Unsurprisingly, this book has LGBT representation. It's in the background, but it is there. Given that I have been less than favourable towards books that had a school in that didn't feature any LGBT representation in the past, I thought it worth mentioning. I personally think this book is a really great palate cleanser because it is quite quick. You get through it very quickly. A lot happens, but it happens in a very condensed way. I like that. I don't like a really long drawn-out mystery, as I've said previously, but I think that might be a con for some people if you wanted a bit more of the magical side of things. This isn't giving you a magical school in the same way as like a Tamora Pierce book will. This is, they are at high school and it's magical, but we're going to focus in on this murder element. I think that's less a criticism and more a you need to know what you're going to get out of this book before you go in kind of feeling. My other con is actually about how the ending played out. It didn't quite sit 100% right for me, but obviously I can't get into that in a spoiler-free review, so all I'll say is I really love the lead up to the ending. It just doesn't quite stick the landing for me. It does like a little hop. I would knock half a point off if I were judging gymnastics. I assume that's how gymnastics points work. I don't know. Some comparisons, some other things you might want to read. If you do want a magic school that deals more with magical classes, barring some of the criticisms about it, I think Deadly Education is a good option by Naomi Novik. What else is on my list? Tempest and Slaughter by Tamora Pierce. You probably ought to read the other series first because I didn't and I kind of regretted it, but it is a good time. For that sort of fish out of water feeling and the idea of desperately wanting to be a part of something that you cannot access, I thought about Memory Called Empire by Arcady Martin. That's a very, very good series anyway. Very different in tone to this, but has similar ideas within it. Should you pick this up? My vote is yes. I think it's really well done. I think the sisterly relationship and the estranged adults kind of aspect of it is fantastic. As I say, it just captures that feeling of school still feeling really weird incredibly well. I think it's phenomenally well written. It's a great mystery. If you like mystery, you'll like this. It's great. I've yet to read a Sarah Gailey book that I'm like, no. All of them have been fantastic, and all of them have been very different, which I appreciate. As I say, I think this is a great palate cleanser, so also if you're feeling a bit bogged down in your reading, this might be a great thing to read to just kick you out of a slump. If you were to recommend to me a murder mystery to read, because I haven't actually read that many of them, as in mostly through the television, what would you recommend? What do you think are the great mysteries, either actual classics or new things? I've read most of Sherlock Holmes, so don't recommend me that, but anything else, I'm open to hearing from it. I'm open to hearing from it. I'm open to hearing it. While you're down there commenting, obviously, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. All of my social media is linked below should you wish to follow any of that. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. I don't know why I whispered that.